Black Sigil, Blade of the Exiled. At first, the game was being developed on the Game Boy Advance under the name Project Exile. It was being developed by a small independent Canadian studio, Archcraft. The game was meant to be a Super Nintendo-like RPG, similar to something like Chrono Trigger. I have came across the information that in 2004 the game was 70% completed. In 2006 a promotional video was released promising its very soon release. However, because the Game Boy Advance was at that point rapidly approaching the end of its life cycle, and the DS was actually already released in 2014, it was by then decided, mostly for business reasons, that the game will be delayed and released on the DS. The strongest part of the game are the characters and the story. It's the best part of the game. The setting is on a fictional Arctic island of Bellenora. It's a place where everyone is born with the ability to use magic, but however, not so long time ago, there was a evil General Vi, the Magicless. He came to Bellenora. He caused there wars and terrible suffering, but eventually he was banished from the world. Our main character, Cairo, also happens to be a Magicless. He also happens to be a son of the general who banished Vi. The game throws us straight into the action, doing good job of character development through gameplay. Cairo is dueling another student. At first, he manages to defeat him in a 1v1 sword fight. However, in the next turn, magic is allowed to be used, and in this turn, Cairo stands no chance. This way, Cairo's weakness is being experienced by the player firsthand. Because Vi was magicless and Cairo is magicless, everyone is afraid of Cairo. So the game does a very beautiful job of throwing us, the player, into the shoes of this discriminated character, so we genuinely do feel sympathetic for him. Especially in the early part of the game, this is really strong. Cairo's sister Aurora joins him, and she's the complete opposite. Everyone likes her, so this dynamic creates a strong contrast, because in one way NPCs are going to be praising Aurora for her skill or beauty, and on the other way everyone's going to diss Cairo about how they're afraid of him, how he looks evil, or whatever. For the first portion of the game, Cairo's father is desperately trying to get Cairo to develop his magic. He tries that by sending him to holy places and monasteries, and also goes as far as putting him in mortal danger. He puts him against opponents against whom he stands no chance without magic. Despite all the effort, nothing works. Cairo is and remains magicless. Because there's more and more paranoia in general population, Cairo's father is forced with a horrible decision to banish his son, just as he did General Vi before him. But however, in secret, his sister Aurora also joins him. From there, they find themselves in a completely new world, and from here on, the game actually begins, You come out from the cave and you see the world map, and the huge world map that's way bigger than Bellenora opens up, and it's a really huge world with many new characters that join you, many new towns to visit, many new dungeons to go through. It's really huge, and there's so much stuff to see. The gameplay is actually very similar to Chrono Trigger. It utilizes real-time battle system. The main difference here is that you can walk around using the L button. However, doing so will waste your turn and it drags the battle. So in general, you will try to avoid it as much as possible unless you absolutely need to do it. In general, I like the gameplay a lot. Later, new characters will join you, and this will allow you to pick your favorites, develop strategies around them, reposition them differently. So it's a lot of different stuff to try out. Unfortunately, the game has some problems that leads to its downfall. The most obvious problem is the random encounters. There's way too many of them. They are way too common. You're going to be fighting the same enemies all over again, and they just drag the game. They make it unnecessarily long. Especially later, the maps get bigger, they become harder to navigate, they're confusing, they have puzzles, and like imagine trying to navigate through a dungeon it's hard to remember where to go. You also have the puzzle, you have to keep awareness of the space where you have to go, while you also have to bother with random encounters. The game itself isn't necessarily too difficult. If you're careful that you pick up good weapons, you do side quests a little bit. You need to strategize a little bit. You can't let your guard down because you never know when you will encounter a very strong enemy. One thing also that is present is that the save points are quite few in between. You can only save on special save points that are not too incredibly common and on the world map. And also the game never tells you that you can save on the world map, which is not very nice at all. It's an RPG standard, but still, they could tell you, it's really too much to ask. And because of this saving, you have to be very careful that you don't end up dead, because if you die, you can easily just as well lose from half an hour to an entire hour of gameplay, and especially if you have to go through the same random encounters all over again, it's quite a bother. Another major problem in the game is that it's a bit buggy. There's quite a lot of glitches here. I have personally experienced my game freezing a couple of times. It's very annoying because it forces you to restart the system, and you have to go all over away from your last save point. And that can be half an hour, and it can be even more. It's very annoying. I also heard reports of game-breaking glitches, like I heard a report of a boat not appearing, so the player was stuck on an island. So when you play this game, you really have to be careful to utilize all of the free save files, save a lot. So this is quite unpleasant. Some of these features are so quote-unquote features, they do make the game quite unpleasant. Honestly, it makes it hard for me to recommend this game to anyone. However, the reason why I would still choose to recommend it is that the game has soul. It was made by a small team of people, it was a very small indie studio, and they developed it out of quote-unquote genuine love for the RPGs. Basically sort of like a pet project. It wasn't just another stupid sequel that's made to print more money. It's a shame that there's no re-release for this game. It could have easily been substantially fixed just by decreasing random encounters, possibly fixing a few bugs. Another redeeming factor about this game that helps a lot is the music, especially the main battle theme. It really fits well with the random encounters because the song is it has a long, hard struggle feeling to it, and it goes well with the hardship. This is where the random encounters can also sort of be an advantage in a way, because after you go through a cave and you bother with a lot of random encounters, when you come out of the cave and you come to the village, the city, whatever, it really does feel good to be able to just walk around the city, have some dialogue. But I don't know, it is a bit much, especially in the later portion of the game. In the earlier portion of the game it works, but later it's just too much. I would still recommend this game if you're a fan of DS games. If you're looking at DS game, maybe you want an SNES style RPG and you already tried all the old Chrono Triggers and such. Maybe try it, even if you don't finish it. It is fun to pick it up. Interesting thing is that there was a sequel in the works. However, unfortunately, because the first game was never too much of a commercial hit, the studio was closed, so all that we have left of that potential sequel are a few screenshots. It's unfortunate that the sequel will probably never see the light of day, but who knows, we can hope.